Morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I'm Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray. New York Mets had a meeting with Juan Soto. Are you sitting down for this? It went well. We're going to talk about that and what it means, any potential repercussions. And the Yankees are meeting with him today per reports. So we'll get an insight into what the latest is on the Soto chase because we know it's top of mind. Alex Cora, very cutesy and coy over the weekend. Some might even say demure, but not me. When it came to Juan Soto, we'll go into what the Red Sox are currently seeking because we know we're getting Red Sox comments, so we are more than happy to. The qualifying offer stuff coming down the pike. Nick Martinez accepted. Will Nick Pivetta accept? Is the qualifying offer just for people named Nick? Also, what's the deal with this Brady Singer-Jonathan India rumor? We'll try to break that down. Empty Robert's notebook and get to plenty of your questions. As we know, this is an off-season pod. It's a November, December, January pod. That means tons of questions. That means this podcast is best used in service to you guys and everybody listening and watching. So get your questions in. Join us in the Discord in the All-Star channel. Get your questions in. You get priority responses if you're joining us at that level. But either way, we know these are best served as Q&As. That's why we're going to be here Monday, today, Wednesday, a little earlier, 1:30 Eastern, and then Friday, again, back here at 3:30 Eastern. Triple the shows. I mean, we went from 2 to 3, so 33% more show. Triple the shows would be 6 per week. That'd be nuts. But we're going to give you all we can hanging in the winter meetings. And I can't do that without Robert Murray, who's here with me, as always, to help us out. Robert, stove moderately hot? Stove being turned on? Somebody even looking at the stove?
Somebody is looking at the stove. I do indeed have one in the drafts, so hopefully I'm able to drop that during the pod. I don't know, but I would recommend turning on notifications as we speak. It was funny as we started the pod up here. I had someone in baseball text me, Robert, I need action. Tell me something is going to happen soon. Something will happen soon. It's not a big something, but it is indeed a something. But I am excited to break it down with you, Adam. Always good to be here with you. And with the fact we're doing 3 shows per week is even more exciting. People asking, Cooper is right by my feet sleeping. He just met his first ever puppy in his entire life. Well, that's not his sibling. I think the guy that I met him with, Grant, is in the comments already. So shout out to Grant, absolute G. But I'm ready to dive into some baseball stuff, Adam. How are you doing?
We are good. Somebody wanted a Biscuit Cooper cam. Biscuit is in his second home in Pennsylvania right now. So unfortunately, Biscuit not on the premises. I believe he's doing well. He looks like Biscuit. Anybody who's seen Biscuit, that's kind of his overall vibe. But no, he cannot come on the podcast today, unfortunately. But that's okay. A good place to get Biscuit pictures is the Discord, by the way. If you haven't joined, if you're not a subscriber, if you're not a member, plenty of things you could do. You could subscribe to the Baseball Insiders. You could turn notifications on to make sure you know when we're going live, because obviously we're going to be going live at different times, especially approaching the winter meetings. You can become a member. You can join at the Rumor Mill tier, which allows access to Robert and I between shows, or the All-Star tier, which has scheduled Q&As twice a month with Robert for an hour in the All-Star channel in the Discord. Twice a month with me. I'll fill you in. I'll do what I can. I can help. I can help you folks out. But either way, we're going to answer more questions than we ever have before, and you get priority responses in this particular chat. We got some questions lined up from the All-Stars today, and apparently people really want to talk about Shane Bieber, so perhaps we will get to that at some point as well. But during the slow part of the offseason, it's Juan Soto who is really capturing the headlines. The Blue Jays have gone and made their pitch. The Red Sox did too. It supposedly lasted 3 hours. Pretty long meeting. I don't know, diminishing returns, maybe an hour or 2, but they are obviously deadly serious about Soto and about Scott Boras and getting in touch with him and talking about his other clients. I want to start with the Mets, though, because the real difference is now that they have reportedly met with Soto. The rumors started leaking out about, okay, their meeting went really well, just like the Red Sox meeting. Also, this initial offer was exchanged. Rumors said there were rumors about a $660 million number. I know everyone who just showed up to the Yankees podcast, we had a couple of commenters in there asking about, how real is that? Do you think the Yankees will match that? So we'll open the floor by saying, was this Mets meeting, were offers exchanged? Is this an introductory meeting like the other ones? Obviously, they all went pretty well. Juan Soto heard what he wanted to hear, but what can you tell us about this meeting and the timeline of events?
Yeah, so I I know that the Mets' meeting went really well with Juan Soto, and you can say that about every meeting so far. It's gone well with these teams in Soto, and these meetings really are an introduction for Soto to meet the potential leadership groups of a team that could end up being with Soto for the next 10 to 15 years. I do not believe at this point that any financial offers have been made. I mean, it's always possible that something could be like slipped under the table. I mean, who knows? But I am very skeptical of any financial offer being made at this point, because this is just the beginning of the process. We are not at the point where offers are going to be made. But as far as Soto goes, like, there's going to be some very lucrative offers. We've been talking all offseason, or even during the season, that his potential contract is going to end up being for about $500 million, probably more. At least $500 million is what I should say. And I can't see a team coming out right away and offering $660 million. That seems like would almost be too good to be true. So consider me skeptical of that report, but this is just the beginning process of what is going to be a very lengthy process for Boras and Soto and his entire camp. So I would not expect news anytime soon. I would remain patient, and I would imagine we'll end up getting something. I mean, it's definitely going to be at some point obviously during this offseason, but maybe winter meetings time, maybe after, but nobody really has a firm timeline of when it's going to come yet.
Great. That's what everybody wanted to hear, right? Yeah, but still, I mean, look, you're right. I think a lot of people who are optimistic about the Mets' chances, there's good reason. They made the NLCS last year without Juan Soto. They have a man in charge of their payroll above David Stearns, who has seemingly insurmountable wealth. And so when people visualize the Mets offer, they're sort of like, all right, so Steve Cohen's just going to walk in there and drop $725 million and dare everyone else to bid to his level. He might get there someday, but he didn't walk into the first meeting and just sort of overbid or overpay everybody else to clear him out.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a very long process with Soto, and this is going to be one of the most unique free agencies in baseball history because it's very rare. You okay, Adam?
You know what? I'm pressing the mute button and it's not working. So I really hope everybody is enjoying these coughs, because you don't get these for free.
No, this is the raw content right here. This is what we all love. But I hope you're okay, Adam.
I'm good. I am not well. I'm doing very poorly.
Oh, well, I love you. But going back to Soto here, this is going to be a very long process, and he's going to want to take his time with this decision because he values a lot of different things. He wants to go to a place where he can win. He wants to go to a place where obviously he's going to be very well compensated. I think the highest offer is going to end up going to he'll end up going to the highest offer is my guess. And there's a multitude of other factors that are going to be important to him, like being close to his family is another one as well. And it's a really difficult decision when you have to determine where you're going to be for potentially the next 15 years. And he's going to want to take this slow. He's going to want to slow play this. He's going to end up wanting to have as good of an idea of what the organization's plan is, not just now, not just next year, but like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. Like it's going to be very important to him. And teams are not going to rush into this by any means. We're not going to get to the point of offers for a little bit of time yet, is what my guess is. And that means we're not going to be like $660 million offers. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, but I am incredibly skeptical of that. So just, as I said, be patient. It's going to take some time, but we are not even close to the point, in my opinion, where offers are going to be made.
Yeah, as Jimmy Eat World said, it just takes some time, and we might be in the middle of the ride. But Alex Cora and the Red Sox are certainly in the middle of that ride right now. He was approached over the weekend. He basically was as coy as he possibly could be. People seem to love the Soto shuffle. I don't know. I fly a lot of.
Oh, Adam, we lost you.
I figured it out. The mute button went off after maybe 10 minutes. So everybody heard me cough, but not podcast. Is that good?
Yeah, that is good. Yeah. I mean, you're doing a great job. I promise you.
Fantastic. Well, this is what we call my worst show ever. But you know what? We soldier on. I was starting to just talk about the Red Sox and Cora, basically saying he was being really coy over the weekend. He was saying we like the Soto shuffle. People like the Soto shuffle. I fly to a lot of places. I'm not telling you where I flew. And everybody sort of knows he was in that Soto meeting, but we don't know what was exchanged. We know it was lengthy. We know it's becoming a meme at this point that he was impressed by every meeting. Obviously, they all went well. But you and I have been clear on this podcast that whether or not the Red Sox land Juan Soto, that there's a serious benefit to the Red Sox being major players and touching base with Scott Boras. At the very least, they're playing the game, and they're doing so pretty well at this point. So would you agree that, I don't know, insight into, have we learned anything else about their pursuit over the weekend? And is it sort of like, regardless of what happens here, they've laid the groundwork for a big offseason?
Yeah, I think they have indeed laid the groundwork for a big offseason. And we saw it last year where they were talking about going full throttle, and then they immediately ended up walking back. They immediately ended up walking it back. And then this year, there's been a lot more talk about them being like very serious about like meaningfully upgrading this roster. And I absolutely, totally believe it. And they've done nothing to debunk this by any means. Let's see. There people are talking about passing. That is not the deal that I have. I have a different one.
That is a bomb, though. I mean, Davey Garcia, former Yankees legend, who started a playoff game and pitched one inning and then got taken out, and everybody got mad at the Yankees. So, brilliant strategy and icon, and we'll see how he does in Milwaukee.
No, that we will. They're good at developing pitching in Milwaukee, so I'm really curious to see how that goes.
Probably gonna do pretty well in Milwaukee, yeah.
I would imagine that's a good signing by them. But as far going back to the Red Sox, we've obviously heard them connected to Juan Soto, and they met with him, and by all accounts, that meeting did go well. As I've said on this podcast repeatedly, I'm still skeptical that John Henry is going to be in a position to outbid Cohen or Hal Steinbrenner. But if you look at their other offseason options, you can look at like a Max Fried, like a Corbin Burns. You can look at a Blake Snell, or even if you want to go offensively, you can look at a Willie Adames or any of these other guys. And I imagine they're going to be on most of these guys and plenty of other options as well. I would expect at the end of this offseason that no matter who they end up getting, that their roster is going to be much improved compared to what it was at the end of the year. And if that is indeed the case, that is a really, really encouraging thing for the Red Sox, for the Red Sox fans, and from ownership as well, because we've been consistent on this podcast in being pretty critical of John Henry and for how little he's invested into this team and how he has not spoken to the media as well to be accountable for that lack of activity. So I expect things to be different. Obviously, like, not me guaranteeing anything by any means, but I feel pretty good that no matter who it is, we are going to end up seeing a different looking Red Sox roster come opening day, and for the better as well.
Well, I can guarantee one thing. Davey Garcia to the Milwaukee Brewers. That is my scoop. I tried to mute myself so I could tweet from Jeff Passan's account, but I got it out. So yeah, Davey Garcia to the Brewers. That's real. That's happening. There have been everyone noticed. Everyone in the comments has noticed. There have been very few tangibles to latch onto during hot stove season because we're all waiting for Juan Soto. We're thinking about meetings going well. We're not thinking about other targets. There was a Brady Singer-Jonathan India trade rumored over the weekend. Ken Rosenthal temporarily, before the massive Davey Garcia bomb, it was probably the weekend's biggest bomb. But then talk sort of petered out, and we never got an update on that. So curious, before we go into the questions and empty your notebook, anything that you've heard on Singer India? How far along might that trade be? I know Ken Rosenthal sort of talked today about, discussions, maybe not close to the finish line.
Yeah, and like as Ken reported, like talks have indeed happened between the Royals and the Reds. Like that is a thing. And when he reported it, nothing was close. And to my knowledge, as of yesterday, nothing was close either. But I am not surprised that Brady Singer is drawing interest. I would imagine that is going to continue throughout the offseason, because if you look at him, he's a really intriguing arm, and he's got 2 years of control left. And I believe he's projected to make about $8.5 million this year through arbitration. So, I mean, that's pretty affordable for a pretty talented right-handed pitcher. So to me, I don't know if this trade will actually go through, because teams discuss a lot of different scenarios with other teams. Like that is just what the offseason does. But I think the Brady Singer trade talk is valid. Do I think a trade happens? I mean, it's far from a guarantee. but a player of that caliber and with that salary, I'm not surprised whatsoever that he's going to end up getting trade interest. And for a guy like Jonathan India, I mean, that would make sense because that would also add another bat to the Royals lineup where I think they absolutely need some more reinforcements to that lineup in addition to what they ended up doing in the pitching staff as well last offseason and also extending Michael Wacha again this year.
I was surprised that India didn't go anywhere last year. So I'm sure this is not the last time that we'll talk about him this offseason, whether or not he ends up being a Royal or not. Okay, Robert, open up that notebook. Anything you want to talk about that we haven't touched on yet, and then I will dive into this lengthy comment section, most of which is very fun, and I'm enjoying the comments.
Yeah, and I'll start off with a Discord question because these kind of go hand in hand. It was one of them. I can't remember who asked it, but it was a good question. Which market do I think could end up moving first?
Let me get you the attribution there.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah, that was Hunter in the all-star level of the Discord. Which market will have the most early traction? And somehow, several weeks in the offseason, we're still stuck on no traction in most markets yet, so we can still ask that question.
No, we absolutely can. And there's a couple of different markets that are moving. We've obviously seen like Michael Wacha come up. Well, I mean, he wasn't a free agent, but we've seen him get extended. We've seen some relievers sign already. We've got some other guys who are there's some interest going on there for sure. I would say one of them that I'm keeping an eye on is the starting pitching market, and specifically a guy like Nick Pivetta, because we are looking at. I remember last year or 2 years ago when the I think it was 2 years ago at this point. Tyler Anderson ended up getting a qualifying offer from the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then right before the qualifying offer deadline, whether to accept it or not, he ended up agreeing to a 3-year, $39 million deal with the Los Angeles Angels. And to me, I could see a guy like Pivetta end up being a candidate for something similar, like in terms of timing. I'm not saying or for him to sign I don't know, before other players or other bigger names. I'm not saying that's going to happen by any means, but that is something that I think could make sense. I wouldn't be surprised by it by any means. But Pivetta is a guy who my guess is he turns down the qualifying offer, and we'll see exactly what ends up happening after that. But he is a guy who is I can say is drawing pretty good interest so far. As far as the rest of the stuff in my notebook, one guy who I think is going to do very well in free agency is Tanner Scott. He is coming off of a very strong year with the Miami Marlins and the San Diego Padres. He was putting up fantastic numbers when he was with Miami. Still, obviously his numbers in San Diego are not as good as they were in Miami, but that was almost impossible because he was just that good in Miami. But he was still very good in San Diego, and I would expect him to do very well. And a guy like Devin Williams, he continues to draw trade interest from the Brewers as well. They obviously are in a very similar situation with Williams now than they were, or as they were with Corbin Burnes and Josh Hader, where he's entering the final year of his deal. And that's what happened with Burnes. And they traded Hader with a year and a half of control left on his contract. So not necessarily something that would surprise anybody in baseball. Not saying anything is close, but I mean, there's always a shot for that, especially for a guy as talented as Devin Williams.
Awesome. Going to dive into the All-Star section now for some questions. Although Stan from West.
Wait, hang on. I want to ask a follow-up. MLB deadline news. Are you talking about Pivetta, or what are you asking about there? Then I'll report back to you.
Happy to help.
No, yeah, there we go. Well, okay. Sorry, Adam. I just cut you off.
No, of course. Seeing, just some Soto comments. Soto flat out saying the Yankees had no edge in signing him, and he meant it. Yeah, they don't. But again, whoever the highest bidder is, he's willing to entertain all offers, and I think those are going to come from the Jays, Red Sox, Yankees, and Mets. We'll see where things land, and we will certainly talk Juan Soto next show too, I assume. MLB deadline news asked Pivetta. Yeah,
it's like more it's speculation and like little bits of stuff that I'm hearing. I would say it's more speculation than anything, but it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Perfect. Okay, question from the All-Star channel. Angels question from BTH and JR the Kid. Are the Angels continuing to shop players who are available at the deadline? Anderson, Rengifo, Ward. Do they hold on to them? And Junior the Kid, what is next for them if they hold on to all three in terms of payroll expansion? What do they do from here? Obviously, the Angels are basically the only team that have made moves so far this offseason, so wise to talk about them potentially expanding payroll.
No, it's a totally valid question. I think it's a good question from Beyond the Halo, and it's something that I've been wondering about as well. And clearly with what the Angels are doing this offseason in terms of signing some of these veteran guys, and then also trading for Jorge Soler. They're trying to win. And last deadline, it was very clear in talking to teams that their asking prices for guys like Taylor Ward or even Luis Rengifo, especially Ward, were pretty unrealistic. And there was never really a good chance that they're going to be traded. So unless those prices come down, I would be pretty surprised if either one gets traded, especially with Rengifo coming off of surgery. I mean, that always complicates things, and teams are going to want to see if he's healthy or not before making a move for that. And also, I mean, trading Rengifo now would also be the Angels selling low. So I can't imagine they're going to be in a hurry to do that. But by all accounts, everything I've learned about the Angels is that they're going to continue doing what they've been doing, is scouring every market. I mean, maybe not catcher anymore with Darno and Logan O'Hoppe there as their options, but I think every other option or every other position on that team is fair game. And they're continuing, I would imagine, looking for a power bat, because Perry made a very strong point of pointing that out at the GM meetings, that even after adding Jorge Soler, they would like to add another power bat. So we'll see. But I know it's a boring answer, but the Angels continue to look for almost every position. They want to find as many upgrades as possible for that roster. And I would not be surprised if the theme of adding veteran players to that locker room continues.
Drew asked, to piggyback that, the Padres potentially trading for Taylor Ward if Profar is too expensive. I'll spin that off into Padres plans in general with Profar and with potentially replacing Profar, because I think some people thought that might be an easy reunion. Turns out not so much. So any thoughts there on that vacancy and Padres thoughts in general?
Yeah, Profar, to my knowledge, is getting a good amount of interest so far this offseason. Nothing is remotely close there by any means. And I know the Padres remain interested, from what AJ Preller told me at the GM meetings, that Profar is a player that he likes. And obviously he's got a deep familiarity with Profar from their days in Texas and also in San Diego. That being said, I would imagine the Padres are going to be considering a lot of different contingencies when it comes to Profar alternatives if he does indeed go elsewhere. That being said, if the Angels' asking price for Ward remains the same, I would imagine a Ward Padres trade would be pretty unlikely, because that asking price at the deadline was a lot, especially even after he was struggling for that long period. So we'll see there. But and I see Joseph Cuevas, or I don't know how you pronounce your last name. That does not mean Profar is leaving. I mean, the team's got to consider all options this offseason, because free agency is such a crapshoot. So I would not read too much into that. Profar is getting a lot of interest, and the Padres are in, but they got to consider anything and everything on the market.
Also from the All-Star channel, then we'll head to the comments. Baron asking if there are any high-named, well-known players who are at risk of a DFA to make room for prospects with Rule 5 eligibility. So this is non-tender week. This is Rule 5 protection week. We'll get into the non-tenders as the week goes on a little bit, I think. But Rule 5 protection is tomorrow. Anything interesting you're hearing in that department regardless? Or, definitely doesn't have to be players who will be losing their 40-man spots. But any names you're hearing early buzz are going to get protected.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I have not heard anything. Sorry,
hey.
Yeah,
all good. No, all good. Have to ask. We're going to be seeing some prospects protected on the 40-man in the coming days. So appreciate any insight there. Let's we'll go to the comments for a few more. I have somebody asking, Soggy Pebbles asking if someone in the All-Star channel can ask Robert what the Pirates are doing. Well, it's your lucky day. You can, and I'll go right to you. Any Pirates thoughts before we sign off and before Paul Skeens gets named Rookie of the Year tonight?
See, do we think Paul Skeens is going to be named Rookie of the Year?
I do. I think it's going to be not that close, but we'll see.
Really? Because if I had a vote for Rookie of the Year, I would have gone with Jackson Merrill. I really would have. And yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think Merrill, what he did this year was fantastic. I mean, not saying that Skeens wasn't fantastic, because he was, but Merrill is in position to really cement himself as one of the faces of baseball. As such a young player, so I'm going with Merrill for that. But as far as the Pittsburgh Pirates, I have not heard much there. As I've said on previous shows, I would be pretty. I don't know. I'm taming my expectations for Pirates fans this offseason. I don't know if they're going to end up doing much. But yeah, would keep your expectations relatively low unless something changes.
Will Thomas, not the only person, but the first person I see bringing up Sean Manaea. Obviously, that's another likely qualifying offer decliner. So I'm curious on his market so far because he really built himself up nicely with the Mets last year. He and Luis Severino both probably hitting the open market with a better shot at a bounce back this winter. Thoughts on either of those two pitchers?
Yeah, I'll speak more for Sean Manaea. I believe his market so far is really, really good. And I'm not surprised whatsoever. He's been an analytic favorite for however long. The Giants loved him. The Mets obviously loved him. He performed really well, especially on the big stages for them. And he's going to end up being a guy who ends up getting a very, very nice multi-year deal this offseason. And it came as no surprise whatsoever that he is going to turn down the qualifying offer. So we'll see exactly where he ends up, but he is going to be in position to land a very strong multi-year deal this offseason.
All right, got a couple more teams to run through. I know we want to do, let's do the Braves who just popped in. Any rumblings on the Braves from Mark Scheimer?
Let's see. No, I don't think I've heard anything on the Braves. I'm going to be totally real on that one. I don't want to feed you guys any BS. Alex Anthopoulos keeps things very, very, very quiet. I know there's a reason why they talk about Anthopoulos Island when it comes to Braves Twitter. I mean, I've seen the jokes about it plenty of times. He keeps things very hush-hush. And, yeah, I know one thing I have heard on them is that they've indeed been looking at the starting pitching market. That is one thing I can confidently say as they've been looking at the starting pitching market.
I got to make sure to do the Blue Jays, too, because we've got our fair share of Blue Jays commenters today. Any updates on the Blue Jays market beyond Soto?
Yeah, they've been looking at a variety of different options. I could see them adding a decent name this offseason. I don't want to get them too excited by any means because I don't want to end up having their dreams crushed like last year because that bothered me. But as far as the Blue Jays go, they need a lot of different things. They need rotation help. They need bullpen help. They need infield help. They need a lot of different things. And you also got to remember at the end of the day, too, is they got Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette contract questions in the back of their minds as well. And that's also a complicating factor when it comes to Juan Soto. So they're going to be looking for a lot of different things. That's why I think it could end up making it difficult to add a guy like Soto when you have so many different needs. But I expect the Blue Jays to be sniffing around on some decent names this offseason.
Couple more that I've collected before we sign off. I saw someone asking you about the Yankees and also the Jason Dominguez trade rumors that cropped up over the weekend. I don't think those were legitimately sourced by anybody, but I am wondering about what markets the Yankees are playing in outside of Soto, or is it pretty much zero-sum game at this point? We're meeting with Juan Soto. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, Soto is obviously the number one priority. But from what I've gathered is the Yankees are checking in on a lot of different markets. And as far as the Jason Dominguez trade rumors go, I can't imagine that's real. I can confidently say I have not heard that. That doesn't mean it's not true. But I only go off of what I hear, and any Dominguez trade talk is not something that I've heard from my phone, from anybody, or just in general. That is, yeah, I'll send some text. You can check in the Discord about that, but yeah, I have not heard anything on my end. Also, what's up with all the Shane Biebers to the Padres questions? It's a lot of different. We've gotten a lot of those today.
Curious. I think they're probably happening because Shane Bieber signed with the Padres, but maybe not. I don't know.
To my knowledge, he is not signed with the San Diego Padres. So I would imagine the Padres could be involved with that. I think that makes plenty of sense. But Bieber is also a guy who's most likely not going to be ready for opening day. And what that contract eventually looks like is going to end up being kind of a mystery. It could end up being maybe a 2-year deal, but maybe with an opt-out, or I wouldn't think an opt-out, maybe a 2-year. Yeah, I think a 2-year deal would probably make the most sense for a guy like Bieber. And I would imagine there's going to be plenty of other teams that make sense in that. And I also think the connection with their pitching coach could also really help matters. But Bieber's going to end up having a pretty strong market. I could see the Red Sox being in play there as well. I know they do. I know they have. I think they've had some conversations with Bieber's representation. So we'll see there. But Bieber does have a good market so far.
The two more that I want to tuck in, and I thank everyone for joining us today. Corbin Burns and the Dodgers smoke reel from Damien. I did want to touch on that because that was a report that dropped earlier this morning. And the Alex Bregman looking at Manny Machado's deal for a template. There are some Bregman and Astros comments too, and I felt like that was probably a good point to touch on before we sign off as well. So 1, Corbin Burnes and the Dodgers, yay or nay on that connection. 2, Alex Bregman's next deal, is it massive, and what are you hearing in that department?
Yeah, as far as Corbin Burnes and the Dodgers goes, like he grew up in that area. I believe he grew up in Bakersfield, California. So I don't know exactly how far that is from Dodger Stadium, but that is, I mean, he's got connections to the California area. The Dodgers have a need for starting pitching. They like stars. I can see it, but I don't know if I necessarily think that's the most likely fit in the entire world for Burnes. I would imagine there's going to be plenty of competition there. Probably some more likely suitors than LA. But also when it comes to the Dodgers and star players, I don't think you can rule anybody, or I don't think you can ever rule them out until the very end. Because if an opportunity arises where they can end up getting him or any other player for fair value, I think that's going to be an opportunity where they can't really pass it up. That being said, another part of this too is when the Dodgers have all these star players. When you look at Mookie Betts, you look at Freddie Freeman, you look at Shohei Ohtani, with all this deferred money, adding a star player and potentially not having that player having deferred money could, it could disrupt the locker room dynamic. And I know I've mentioned that with Soto. You wonder if that could end up being the case with Burnes as well. I can't imagine Scott Boras is going to be in a hurry to add deferred money to a deal, so we'll see. But that's kind of why I'm skeptical on that potential fit. And then what was the other one? The Bregman thing.
Yeah. Big old Bregman.
That was a very interesting note from Ken Rosenthal today. That kind of caught me off guard, but it is not unusual for Scott Boras to end up asking for such an astronomical price when it comes to negotiations. Like he always aims very high. There's times where he gets that. There's other times where teams just laugh at him and it's just like, you're not getting that. I'd imagine if he ends up asking teams for the Manny Machado contract for Bregman, that's probably not going to go very well. We'll see, but Bregman, obviously, he's got a lot of interest so far from the Houston Astros, who have made it abundantly clear that he is their top priority. There are other teams involved in the sweepstakes, but I can't imagine it's going to get to the Manny Machado number. I could be wrong. Been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Not with actual scoops like that. When it comes to signings and trades, I don't miss on that. That was kind of a cocky statement, but I like being accurate. Accuracy is good. But yeah, I don't see that contract number going to that.
Accuracy is good. It's the thesis of the podcast. It's why we hope you join us again later in the week, Wednesday and Friday. Robert's also got time in the All-Star channel for questions on Thursday. This has been eye-opening for me. It's been an experience, and it'll be an experience for the rest of the week and for the offseason. So we hope you keep coming back. Robert Murray, thank you for joining me as always. Fit as many questions as we could in there. And yes, please join us in the All-Star channel in the Discord or the Rumor Mill tier if you want to pop in and talk to Robert and I between shows. Robert, what a show. What a whirlwind. What a 34 minutes.
What a 34 minutes it was indeed. I did not get the go text on my scoop. I know we got plenty of people on Twitter, especially MLB Deadline News. Thank you for rooting my Twitter mentions. I appreciate you for that.
Oh, great. Well, there goes. Yeah, that's good. That's cool.
Yeah, and the Mets made a major league signing. What'd they do?
Somebody named Hagenman. People are tweeting in the comments.
That is also not my scoop. So we've got other stuff going. So that we'll see. But I appreciate you doing this show with me, Adam. I appreciate everyone in the comments for doing this with us because it was an epic show. A lot of people in the comments, which we love. Joanne, our lovely producer, we appreciate you. This does not happen without you. And hopefully I get the go text to my scoop at some point today because waiting on this is kind of driving me nuts. But we got to do it the right way. That's what we do on the Baseball Insiders. But we'll see everyone back here on Wednesday. Is that right, Adam?
Yeah, we will be here Wednesday, and that will be a little bit earlier in the afternoon. That is a 1 p.m. Eastern show. So see you right here Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern. That'll probably be mostly a mailbag. So get your questions in when we start rolling. We'll be happy to answer as many of them as we possibly can. And until then, we'll see everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody.